Hello, everybody. Grant Hunter here with another Product Growth Leaders topic of the week. You know, Steve, it's probably been going back. I know with you and I, it's been going back over a couple years. Every once in a while, I get riled up because some product thought leader on Twitter says something that's disparaging to product management. And I'm like, they're a product thought leader. How can they be saying something disparaging? And what it hit me was product is a vague term that can be added to with product management, product development, product design. And some of these product thought leaders come from the development design. Well, a long time ago got me riled up. Somebody said, you know, the old, oh, there was no product management on the iPhone. And it's like, yeah, somebody understood the customer, somebody understood their needs, and somebody helped connect that. Steve Jobs happened to be that person. They may not have had a formal department for it. Well, a couple of weeks ago, a product, and I'm going to put air quotes, thought leader, posed a question: why can't we just give development and design people more business and strategy knowledge and get rid of product management? And, you know, it made me start thinking about the value of product management and how often it's discounted by people who don't really get it. So with that, I decided to put our question in today and dig right to the point. I take it personally. I don't want to take it personally, but I do. But I thought maybe a conversation about this with a group of my trusted peers would help me work through my energy. Does that sound like a good plan, Steve?
Yes, indeed.
It's sort of a therapy. Now we can start using this as therapy sessions.
It's therapy. Yeah.
So we put the question in on Monday. Oh, wait, let me go. What a great panel we have today. One of our larger panels recently. Joy McCaffrey, so good to see you back. We missed you last week. Calvin, Joe, Brian, Cory, Paul. I'm looking forward to digging into this question some more with you guys. So let's get started. The question was, why do so many design and development product thought leaders question the value of product management? Marco Tillman, our community member from Germany, said, I believe that's because many of them are more focused on the how and the execution of features and requirements than on the discovery towards it, the why and the what, in go-to-market and support and maintenance and retention paths after release, all of which within responsibilities, planning at least of product management. So they're sort of in their silos. They got their blinders on. And I thought that was a pretty good rationale. Graham Rowe added, particularly in small startups. I've run into presidents and founders who struggle to let go of the bias of their ideas and best. And that resonated with me because I see that a lot of this happens at startups. There's sort of the Silicon Valley mentality where product is a technical and design thing, not a strategic thing. Steve, I'd love to get your 2 cents on this. You didn't weigh in the community.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the product owner role. So when Agile with Scrum, with whichever one it was, came along and said, we're gonna reject the title product manager and create a new title, product owner. And I'm sure we've had this discussion before. Product owner is a role, not a title, blah blah blah. But fundamentally, there's this new thing called product owner, and it was created because the people who created the role had never knew what to expect from product management. And so they didn't want any of the baggage of the title product manager. They created their own title, product owner. And in the way they described it as product management. They described it as the business representative to the development team. And yet, in actual practice, for most teams, the product owner is not actually doing any product management. They are doing design, they are doing project management, they're doing some development management. So my guess is
they're reading aloud from Jira.
They are reading aloud from Jira, right? So my guess is the folks that are talking about these design and development oriented folks are talking about the product owner as business analyst role, rather than the product owner as any sort of what we would think of as product management. Determining what products to build, what markets to serve, what personas to take care of, understanding not only the using features, but the buying criteria to cause people to want it in the first place. Uh-oh, Cory's got a look.
Yeah, I was actually going to go to Cory because of his background in Agile and such. I don't want to go, Cory. I also want to dig into your answer. We'll get to that later, but I'd love to get your take on Steve's view on product owners.
Uh, I will I will admit that I have a hard time digesting that, but I see some truth in it. The truth, and I don't want to go on a big tangent here because I really could. And maybe I'll
Like we've
later.
never done that on this call.
But I think that there are skills, product skills that people need. And one of the reasons I've responded to the question the way I did is I think there are product skills that everybody can learn. And I think those are good things to learn, or product management skills, product leadership skills, whatever you want to call them. Those are skills that can be learned, they can be taught, they can be internalized, they can be, everybody can use them. It's not, there's not one person on a team who can be the only one that does market criteria or design work or prioritization or things like that. So I don't want to go too far down the product manager versus product owner role debate, because that will be in the future, I'm sure. So I'll stop there.
All right. Well, Joy, you're like this, always this like refreshing, balance both sides. You've done more startup-y type stuff, but you get the strategic role. Where do you weigh in on this? And I'm specifically still thinking of this product owner, product management, gap, but that may be one of the causes of why people don't, these design and development people don't value product management.
Yeah. So at the company that I'm at now, I've been here for less than a year, and it's been a very different experience. So my title's product manager. I report to the VP of product management. That's all fine and good, because I consider product managers to be senior people, regardless of whether they have senior or director, whatever. And I have worked at a lot of startups, and as product manager, I report to the CEO. But at this company, so when I interviewed, they said, we're agile. I'm like, that's fine. I mean, isn't everybody nowadays? Agile.
And they're also doing stuff in the cloud with machine learning and AI. It's
yes, exactly.
triumvirate.
Exactly. But in particular, they're using safe agile, which I was like, whatever, safe, agile, whatever. Well, I see some faces.
Well, actually, I think this is something Steve and Cory can agree on.
It's different. It is very different.
I was thinking of a different D word. Difficult.
Yes, it is. So there is a director of product management, which I was like, that's weird because I don't report to him. I report to the VP, and I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but the director basically manages all the product owners. So I was kind of like, well, why isn't his title director of product owners? But he reports to the VP the same as me. And I said to him, I've never had product owners on the product team. They've always reported up to engineering. And he said, really? That you've never? And I'm like, I've been in product management a long time. And he said, oh, well, then you must have experience with Scrum Masters being in product. And I was like, that's crazy talk. What are you talking about? Scrum Masters have never reported up to product. So the way that they're positioning it at my company, just to finally get to my answer, is product managers are discovery, product owners are the solution.
Okay.
So product managers at my company are doing what we consider product management. And then the product owners are responsible for the epics, whatever, the stories, the roadmap. They do work with, the Scrum teams, although because it's safe, there's like these PI planning and they're 2-week sprints ahead. I really don't get that. And I'm glad. Let the product owners do that, and I'll do my part. It's just we all report up to the VP of product management, which is fine because we're I agree, it's waterfall. I mean, how can you be agile when we're working on our March sprint? I don't know.
For those listening, Paul Hurwitz had just put in the chat that
yes.
safe is just waterfall with smaller chunks.
Yes. Yes. So, I'm just kind of trying to be a little bit more different in my view of product owner. So they're in product at my company. They're reporting to the VP. We're all on the same team. They're solution and I'm discovery, and I'm fine with that.
It's interesting the way you describe it, because now I can start thinking about in a startup, Silicon Valley, VC funded, whatever it may be, where there's probably more focus on product owner because the CEO or one of the founders is playing the product, strategic product role.
Right.
I could see how people, if their whole view of what product management is the only other thing that has product in front of it, product owner, you're like, God, we could, so I that's helping me start understanding where this mindset may be coming from. Calvin, you said, part of the issue is that they view product management in that product owner role, right? As it's an execution support role, not a strategic role.
Yeah. And as I'm listening to Steve's comment and Joy's comment, it's kind of clarifying what I had written. And I didn't know how to frame that in where I was thinking. But to go along with Joy's point, and I don't know if it seems similar, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, Joy, but my role in my current company is business product manager, reporting to a VP of strategy, where we have people that are in product management. Some of them are more product management in background, some of them are more product owner, and they report up to the director of product development, who reports to the VP of product development. So I'm outside of that, and then I'm more focused on the business, which is, there's a discovery element, but I'm not in the writing epics and, that IT.
So it really comes, there is this still goes back to the gap in the definition of product management, the technical role of product management versus the strategic role of product management. In some companies, they have both, but the development design people are more used to the technical ones. And so they don't really understand the value of the more strategic ones. And that's
furthermore, neither do their product managers and product owners.
Yep.
We've done a fairly poor job, many of us, promoting the value of what we do. We just seem to be, we have our fingers in every department, helping out in all sorts of ways, but not in maybe the strategic ways that are necessary. So that when sales calls and says, can you go on a sales call? You're like, yeah, I want to be a friend of sales, and I go on sales calls. And whoever needs help, product managers provide the help. And then at the end of the year, they go, well, what does product management do? Well, they seem to help a lot of people. That's not a really very good job description, though.
No, it's not.
And to I guess finish the thought that I had related to what you said earlier, Steve, when you introduced Agile. It seems to me that in that Agile environment, you're missing all that strategy stuff, and you're kind of becomes this task orientation. You've got to take this, and we're going to put this in this sprint, and we're going to do this, as opposed to really looking outward into what the market needs.
Well, that aligns with the David J. Bland image. He did a tweet on how it started, how's it going with sort of lean, build, measure, learn the cycle, and where he has build at 95% of the stuff, learn at 4% of the stuff, or measure at 4% of the stuff, and learn at 1% of stuff. So huge circle is build, and that's sort of what it is. There's in a lot of places, it's build, and there's not measure, learn happening, and definitely not discover happening to go out and learn new things.
And I think the way that we set it up is good. Like the product owners, fine, build it quickly if they can, with safe, whatever. I won't even get into that discussion.
And you're a dual track that's doing the business side and then feeding
but
stuff
we're
into
making sure they're building the right stuff. We're doing all the discovery beforehand. We identify products and features, and then product owners turn that into the stories and work with development to get it rolled out.
I like that. Now, Joe, you talked about perhaps part of it is they don't understand, the value isn't defined as well. Then you went into a whole bunch of gobbledygook of super Qs and MTTRs and ABCDFs and queries that I wasn't aware of, but talk to me about your thoughts on defining value? We're going to get to that question a little later. But what were you thinking with this?
Yeah, so I guess mine was, I'll call it a generic answer, really, of just saying, if you're a development thought leader and you're measuring value on some of those DevOps metrics, so like mean time to restore or change failure rate, those things that are very delivery coding focused type of stuff. That's what those are. Or design, quality of design, super Q. That's just a way to measure usability.
I was just joking because you.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I guess if you take a very narrow approach, right? If design, this is what I care about. Development, this is what I care about. Then it's not going to seem like product management if you're focusing or defining product management on discovery stuff, that you're moving those metrics a lot. So that's where I was kind of going. That's what I was thinking. But kind of sitting here, I like Steve's answer a lot better than what I wrote, of the whole idea of they look at product owners and they say, hey, we could probably learn how to do that without seeing what's beneath the water and kind of the iceberg that is product management. So
I like that. Now, Cory, when I started reading your answer, I thought you were going to go off on the term thought leaders like you went off on requirements last week.
I mean, I can if you'd like me to.
Thought leaders to who? Right?
Well,
who defines you a thought leader?
The key is you have to have thoughts to be a thought leader.
Well, you don't even have to have good thoughts, I've learned. You just have to have thoughts and be willing to put them on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. Some of these conversations, I'm sorry, I could go down that path and I'm not going to. But you went to a place where I hadn't been thinking it, because I was thinking at this Twitter thought leader level. But when it comes into representation, there's a lot of kingdom building in silos. Talk to me about where your head was there.
Yeah, the areas that I've seen where people, engineering people, salespeople, marketing people, don't either understand the value or want to understand the value of product management, product leadership, whatever you want to call it, is they're so focused on themselves and getting their next job or their next raise or whatever they do, is they're only focused on their part. They're not focused on the bigger picture. They're not focused on collaborating or team building with anybody, much less product managers. But nobody can crack that shell. They're just focused on their tasks, their silos, their ways to get their next promotion or job or something like that. And when you try to collaborate with them, they don't want to. They're not interested in it. They might be. I've met some people that were nice about it, that talked to you and at least nodded their heads like, hey, yeah, that's a good idea, and then didn't care. They went and did something else because they
that was my first head of development when I was a director of product management. He's like, these requirements are all nice, but I already know what I'm going to build, so I'm just going to go do it because I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So
he didn't know what to build, by the way. I don't want to give him, he had domain knowledge, but
yeah. So it's more of a, I hate overusing the word mindset, but where are they at? Are they wanting to collaborate? Are they wanting to see the bigger picture? Or are they solely focused on what they can control, quotes, with what we're doing next or what they want to do?
It resonates with me because I've been there. Mostly with development people. I've never had a design peer. I've had designers like as a shared services that we could bring in. So I haven't had that match, that sort of mano y mano or whatever, womanio. I don't know if there's a more gender inclusive way to say that. Brian, you said you have two thoughts. What, building on others' answers. First, to build on Cory's, they may be focusing on their silo. Second, to build on Jason. We didn't talk about Jason's answer with all the different definitions of what product management is and what they should be doing. Talk to me about where your head is on this question.
Yeah, I think for the first one, what Cory said, everybody's focused on their silo. I'm going to read what I need to do as a development person, and I'll complain about product management because they're not doing what I want them to do, and because I don't understand them. So I think it is that silo. And I was thinking about that. It goes, well, how many times are us as product managers going out and learning about the development or design field to really understand them? We're all in our silos. Ours just seems like a wider one.
This is a product management call. We're not supposed to be looking back at us in the mirror. And
Sorry.
wait,
Okay.
wait. That's the first question. So you can hold that question till we get to
Okay.
the first question after the poll.
All right.
But
The
I wanna
second.
comment on that.
Okay.
Maybe I'm the exception. I mean, the first product management job I did, I sat down with dev and with design and with doc and said, how can I contribute to our success? And I took the time to learn what design is doing and what development is doing and what doc is doing. And I kind of, my experience tells me that most product managers take that approach. And yet I agree with the other part of your statement is that, maybe developers don't try to find out what the other person's doing. So is that your experience that in general, developers and design and certainly salespeople don't take any time to understand other people's contributions?
I agree with that, yes, but I would say in the product management field, when people are newer to product management, I see that where you try to understand all the different areas and how they're doing it. But once you're in the field for a while,
Good point.
I haven't gone out and read development thought leader articles and blog entries and stuff to say, what are they focused on? What are their new metrics, or are there new ways for them to provide value? So
Fair enough. Good.
I love that. Paul, you have been sitting, I think, quieter for a period of minutes than I've ever seen you be quiet. Normally you're jumping in, and I'm taking this that you're just sitting back and processing all this conversation and debate. And I'm expecting that you're going to come back with some huge epiphany, bringing all this conversation together.
No pressure.
No pressure. I'm going to try. I have been in a couple of roles where, forget about thought leaders. I don't care about them. There are the people that I follow and the people I don't follow.
They're neither thoughtful nor leaders.
Yeah, exactly. I have been in a couple of roles, though, where product management was a new function in the organization. Maybe less recently than in the past, where product just wasn't a function. I was at this one company where the company had been around, as strange as it sounds, for 50 years as a pure tech TV kind of a company, and then was moving into this connected IoT world, and they were going tech, and they brought me in as a product manager. But they had been doing things for so long without a product manager that it worked pretty well until it wasn't working. Yeah. They wanted to be more strategic. They wanted to be less reactive to customer requests and to be more proactive of creating a roadmap. But I don't think everybody in the organization, especially the CTO, who I did not report to, I reported directly to the CEO. I don't think everybody was sold on the value of product management. And if they don't, and if it works well without a product manager, I think there were a number of people in that organization who are like, well, if it ain't broke, why fix it? They just didn't realize what was actually broken.
Yeah.
So I think there's always this aspect of a need to sell the value of what product management can deliver and what we can do for an organization.
The other Paul Atala in his answer actually said it goes back to the why product management question, right? If we can understand why product management, on my Drucker on Product feed, I've been sharing a lot of quotes about the importance of being customer and market focused, and how do we do that. And I'm going to get to a little bit when we get to some of the later answers, but somebody's got to be the voice of the market, right? Somebody's got to be out there understanding the customers and their needs and understanding the different value profiles, so you can segment the personas based on those types of things. And
well, I think that there are a lot of enterprise style companies, but especially the ones who are startups selling into the enterprise, where the voice of the customer is account management, giving you all of the requests from customers that need to get done. They're not really voicing what the market needs. They're voicing what the customer needs.
And depending on where you are in the penetration of the market, That could be a smaller part of the market than the potentials of the people who haven't bought yet, who you should be talking to, or new market segments. How often do we listen to the people who are already customers and build features for them, and it does not increase our retention rate, does not increase our average sale price? We're, outside of price increases, we're building stuff that's adding no value to our business. We're not capitalizing on the value we create. We're not innovating in that type of stuff, and that happens a ton. So I completely and totally get with that.
But I want to take what Paul said a little bit further. I think we do, like any industry or any profession, speak in jargon. And so we say things like voice of the market, and we all know what we mean. And yet, to Paul's point, if I go to a CEO and say, who's your voice of the market? They say, yeah, it's our salespeople. They talk to one, sometimes two people every day. And, one conversation, as you've heard me say, one conversation is not a completed research study.
And the lens they use, right? We've talked about N equals many versus N equal one before, right? They're doing it on a, how do I get this one deal? And then they go to the next deal. How do I get this one deal?
Right.
Where product management is looking at this as a, where are we seeing trends in the market across these types of things? One thing that our conversation has made me realize, and maybe I need to, sit back and chill a little when I'm on Twitter, is that, thought leaders aren't sometimes neither thoughtful or leaders, and they're just people who are saying provocative things, trying to get people to react because they want to get people to react and get the counts up, right? And so,
I think it's more like they're reading the same things that everybody else is reading and just repeating them.
Yeah.
It's tweeting without thought.
Yeah, I think with this, I'm going to take a life lesson from this, is that, Grant, we've talked about this before in many of our sessions, right? What do we tell people to do? Is take a step back, take a deep breath, and not get too worked up about it. So I think this question, our answers, our conversation actually is probably more valuable for me than I could ever imagine, because if it's going to, help me manage my stress, I'm all for that.
Anybody can be on Twitter, whether they have something to say or not.
Yep, I completely agree. So on Wednesday, we did the poll. What is the main reason why people question the value of product management? The options were: product management is not strategic. Product management is not adding value in artifacts. We're not we're not giving them the value in how we share stuff with them. Product management does not engage them collaboratively. Product management is mostly snobby MBAs. I thought we might get some of those, but we must not have had any development or design people. In other, it depends. And I swear that I made a pact that I was not going to ever write questions where other was going to be the largest answer, because then it's a whole new dialogue again. But other one with 38%, we'll get into some of those. Next was product management does not engage them collaboratively, 30%. I'm going to talk deep on that when we get to the next one. Product management is not adding value in artifact, 15%, and product management is not strategic, 15%. So Steve, did you vote?
I actually did. And I voted for option 3. I think the big challenge is that product managers have not engaged with stakeholders in a healthy way. They're filling out JIRA tickets saying my work here is done, or they're presenting their roadmap and saying take it or leave it. I have found that the healthiest relationships are collaborative. And I've said for years, we don't want to have handoffs to other departments. We want to have handshakes with other departments.
No. And I was trying to write that the other day and I couldn't remember what it was. Now I remember it. Joe, you commented, I'm assuming that means you were in other it depends.
That is correct.
So your experience where product management, a new thing, the value of product management is questioned when there's lack of recognizable outcomes from product effort. So it's not the being strategic, it's not the lack of value in it, it takes a while to see the impact of good strategic product management. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so maybe it could have been in the not adding value in artifacts. Maybe I just didn't understand what that answer was getting at. But Yeah, when I answered it, when I said people question, I was thinking of like practitioners or colleagues in the organization, and not so much the thought leaders.
Yep.
But yeah, just like, we were kind of alluding to it, when product management, a big piece of it is the discovery or figuring out what is that voice of the market, or what should we build for who and why and all that stuff. And you're going through all those exercises, and a lot of my experiences, that's a new, or at least, explicitly doing that is a very new thing. And so if it happens to get jammed up and you can't act on it, or nothing gets out the door to the user, or it takes forever to get out the door to the user, people start to think, what are you guys doing? Why are you, bugging sales to set up and talk to all our customers when, we can't help them? So
I like that. When I was doing product, anytime I had a new product coming out, I would always try to find a salesperson who I would give them my time and stuff, because if I could get that first salesperson getting a commission check because of this new product, he would tell the other salespeople and they say, ooh, there's money to be had here. So I get that. Joy, ignorance. That's the answer. I should have put ignorance up there.
Well, if there wasn't an other option, I would have put collaborative. But I mean, the reason I say ignorance, they're not stupid or dumb. It's just they don't know. They just need to be educated as to what product management is. And I think a lot, if not most, companies just don't understand what product management is, what it has to offer, or what it should be. They have product management, and it's not what we consider product management, as I'm sure we can all agree upon. So a lot of times I do this at startups. I just have to train and educate senior leadership and the rest of the company as to, what I'm going to be offering, what I'm going to be giving. But even at companies where there are already product managers, I just educate on, I don't want to say the right way, but what the possibilities and the benefits of product management and how it can be used, and how, we can kind of expand upon it. And again, just educating sales, marketing, support, development, senior leadership, everybody as to what product management is.
Oh, awesome. Brian, basically it sounds like you're saying you would say ditto to that, right? Show them all the places they can add value.
Yeah, so I think my answer is maybe 10 to 12 words or something.
Yeah.
Joy took it down to one word, not the word I would have used. When I saw that, that's like, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, the ignorance. It's like,
I'm not calling them dumb. Like I said, I want to prep, but they're not dumb, they're just ignorant.
Right. So I looked up and I'm like, I probably would use unaware is probably what I would have replaced it with. But yeah, Joy summarized my 10 to 12 word answer and down to one word.
Okay. Cory, did you vote in the poll, and what was your vote and what your defense of it?
I went with the does not engage them collaboratively.
Okay.
With a caveat that it's not always the product person's fault that they're not engaged collaboratively. Sometimes it's the other person.
So if anything, the collaboratively is probably growing, because Joy said if she had to pick one of those four, she would have picked collaboratively. I may have to change my answer. I had answered product management is not strategic. And this goes to when we did our bad product management call, we basically said the reason there's bad product management is because product management is not strategic. So I sort of just went with that one. Calvin, did you vote?
I did not, but when I thought about this initially before I didn't vote, I thought about, along the lines of what.
Wait, you went through the whole thought process and didn't click on one of 5 buttons?
Squirrel. So I was thinking along the lines of what Joy and what Brian said, what product management is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people believe that product management is X, and sometimes it's it's a subset of that. Sometimes it's not that at all.
Okay, I'll take that. Paul.
I would somewhat ditto Joy's answer of people just don't understand the value of product management, but I would really go much further to say it's possible that the product managers that are in place are not doing their role well enough for everyone to understand the value of what they're doing.
And so that's sort of the first 2 questions, the strategic role of and the putting value in artifacts.
No, I think that really is communication.
It-
You know,
it- I-
they could be very strategic, but if they're not communicating that they're strategic up to people,
Or they're not collaborating with them
Right.
properly.
they won't see the
And-
value of being
So we're just
strategic.
going to lump all these things in together.
But no, I'm not even saying communicate, like if they're just not doing a good job. If you've got someone who's not a quality product
Mhm.
manager in place and isn't doing the role of product manager well, then people around the organization could wonder, well, what's the value of product management?
Yeah, I like that.
That's fair.
I tend to agree
Particularly
with that.
because many product managers themselves don't know what product management is. I mean, they contact me and they say, you know, what's the best prototyping tool? And I'm like, a UX department,
Yes.
right? I find product managers, if they've come up through engineering or from support or from some other part of the organization and then received no training, how do they know? In fact, one of the teams we worked with recently, the product managers were all subject matter experts. They were all practitioners, and they put them into product management without really saying, here's what you'll do in product management. So that when we started talking about the activities of product management, not including, you know, going on sales calls, they were like, oh, wait, I love going on sales calls. You're like, oh, okay, great. You're in the wrong job. You need to be a sales engineer, not a product manager.
No, I completely agree with that. Let's move on to our Paul.
Sorry, I just wanted to add a little bit on to what Steve said, that back when I got into product management, nobody went to school and came right out of college being a product manager. You came up through the ranks in engineering, in marketing, in sales, and support, or whatever. But now there's actually plenty of people that I see coming straight out of school, going straight into product management. And like, sometimes I question that they're not seeing what everybody else in the organization has done because they haven't been there and done that. And then they're coming into product management.
With that in mind, I will say that when I was hired out of getting my MBA, I'll admit I have an MBA. The hiring manager was hiring me for a director of market. It was a manager, market research analyst. And he said to me, he goes, I know that, a lot of people are going to product management jobs, but let me tell you why market research is wise. You're going to learn the whole market. You're going to learn how to analyze competition and support strategy. And it really gave me a good foundation. So I sort of resonate with that because I came up through the market research strategy side and it brought me into it. So that makes sense. All right, let's move to the question. You've now had a chance to read it. How much of this questioning of value is product management's fault? And so, Steve, I'm going to go back to you and talk about the collaboration stuff you were talking about.
I'll go with 62%.
Oh, I didn't know. I should have done a heat map with that one. 62% product management.
Yeah.
Fault. Why?
I really think that I can come at this answer in a couple of different ways, but let me just say, I think in general, a lot of this questioning comes from product management being unclear about their role and being poor communicators of how they contribute to overall company success.
Okay. See,
but 40% is, how the hell did you get this job if you don't know what product management is? And the answer to that is because my boss doesn't know either.
Yep. When we did the War Stories episode, I had in the poll, one of the answers to the reasons for it is product management, things not going by the book, was product management hubris. Nobody picked it. But when I think of this question, there's a lot of there can be hubris that in our profession, in every profession, there's some hubris. So the fact that you went with 62% made me feel at least there's some backing for that idea that it's our fault. Joy, how about you? You don't need to give me a number, Joy. You can just tell me a reason.
Okay.
If you want to give me a number, you can.
I was going to go 60%, a little bit
Okay.
less.
Are we playing The Price is Right? You're just trying.
Yeah. so I was going to say, as Steve was talking, and as I've said before, we need to educate the company as to what we do, what our value is. Basically, we need to toot our own horn. But this just happened yesterday. So at the company that I'm at, they asked me to research and look into, customer research, find out competition, pain points, et cetera, on an adjacent product that they wanted to run with. And so 4 months later, I'm presenting to senior leadership team, and the decision is, this is not a good fit. It's not worth it. We're going to move on. So I'm on another project now. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and the project I'm on now, I don't think we're going to move forward, but I'm getting the data to support that. And so she said, are you okay? Because everything you do, we're not doing it. And I was like, no, I mean, this is a good thing that I'm telling the company, because the project I'm on now, the CEO is having these executive calls with other executives and asking the other executives, what should we do? And so 3 people said this, so now this is my, research project, and I'm going to come back with data and say, not a lot of pain points, not a lot of interest. It's not really that important. There's already a lot of, I'm going to have this data to support so that we can move on. And I feel like what I'm doing is really important. I'm discovering what's good and what's not.
I think you have to also help them understand, God, if we had chased the CEO idea, you would have been designing a product that wasn't going to be successful, and you development was going to be wasting your time. And why don't we prioritize your time? Part of our value is helping make sure you're working on the right stuff.
And I know the senior leadership team loved my first presentation, and they basically said, we want you to do the same thing, go this deep into the data and tell us if we should move forward or not. But now I'm realizing that some of my other coworkers are like, are you okay? Are you down? Because, so I just
Or are
need
you
that
going to become the black widow of product at your company?
That's right. Everything I touch.
Right.
Cory, what's your take on this?
12%. It's 12% our problem.
Really?
Yeah. That's kind of a smart ass answer, and it's kind of an honest answer, because there's only so many things we can control. We can teach, we can talk about, we can show examples. My limited experience is that it really depends on the other person and what their attitude is. And if they're not open to it, there's no amount of information we can give them that would make them change their mind. They have to be open to changing their own mind. We can show them and help them get there. But if they don't see the value and they aren't willing to see the value, I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
It's interesting, Steve. I'm now thinking that Cory, where my beef is with finance and yours with the sales, Cory could represent the beef with design and development.
Fair enough. But, his story does remind me of any number of sales stories that I have, where the salesperson sees themselves as the driver. They go to the airport, they get the resource, they drive it to the client, they present it as a gift to the client, and then they go get coffee. And I've had innumerable arguments with salespeople on this. This is not product management. And they're like, yeah, but you're really good. Well, that's true, but it's not product management. But you're really good, and I'm going to keep calling on you. And you're like, don't do that. So ultimately, back to my 62%, I agree with what Cory's saying. I mean, if the other person is just incapable of learning, then all I can do is just learn to say no. But if you're not really clear on your role in product management, then you don't know what to say no to.
Yeah.
Cory,
the one thing I would say is, the reason I say 12% is because there's always something you could do differently. There's always something that you're probably not doing as well as you should or could. And that's where I would say, look at what you're doing, look at how you're talking about. Sometimes you're going to hit that brick wall, and you can either smash your face in it or you can go somewhere else.
Yeah, I get that. Calvin, your thoughts?
See, I would go the other direction, and I would say 80%. which
Wow.
that's fairly high, yes. But I would submit that if we think that, if we believe that product management tends to be a strategic role, and I think we're all in that camp, then we have more control over driving that. And if we're looking at this from a data-driven standpoint, those naysayers, whether they be in finance or even at the executive level, providing the data that helps drive decision making. And I think that there's an opportunity to do that, and think that it's incumbent upon us to take ownership of that.
I get that. Joe.
Yeah, I think I'm in same boat as Cory, maybe a little higher. So if you want a number, call it 30, 35, I guess. But I do agree, well, on the one hand, you can't, as a product manager or product management function, like expect folks to say like, oh, thank God products here, like just, to know what the value is, whatever. So you do have to prove or show why it is helpful, why you need to talk to customers, that kind of stuff. But kind of going back to the poll question, the unawareness or the ignorance, right? Like you can only claim that for so long before it just becomes actively not caring or not wanting to learn about product management or learn what it brings to the table. And so, it's up to product managers to teach and improve and those kind of things. But there's just so many other stakeholders and functions and people, I'm thinking of in an organization where that's why I'm lower than the 60s and 80s and 50s and things like that, and closer to Cory's
All
number.
right.
So.
Brian.
Interesting. So the number of disciplines that say we need to report directly to the CEO. And, I've been hearing that from the design people. We need to have a seat at the table, and HR wants to be there, and IT wants to be there. And pretty soon it's a pretty big table.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an interesting observation. But the good news is a lot of the small companies that I've been working with that are entering scale are reaching out to us to say, we know now we need to bring in product management. So somebody, and it's partially granted me, but really a lot of PE firms and equity firms are saying product management is this incredible thing that you need to adopt earlier rather than later. So it's a nice thing to see in the in the startup companies.
Yeah, I agree. Brian.
I was going to round my number, but I'm going to go with 88.7%.
Woof. You just wanted to be a little, again, Price is writing it. So
That's right.
Higher, you can get everything above that.
Yep. So I'm a believer in, it's up to us to own the value of product management. It's really not development's job to own what the value of product management is. So it's up to us to educate and continue to drive that value. I threw that, what is it, 11.3% or whatever in there for, you're going to run into those people that they don't care, they don't want to hear. But I think overall people are open to understanding your value, and it's up to us to drive and get them to understand that.
I get that. Paul.
I'm somewhere between Calvin and Brian on this one. I think that
what is between them, like 8%? You're 80, mid 80s.
I don't know. I'll go with like 83.3 if you want me to just pick a number out of the air. But I really do think that if product is not doing its job well enough for everybody else to see the value of what product management can bring to the organization, then product management needs to be much better. Of course, there is that aspect of people should just kind of know what the value of product management can bring to an organization. But they may not truly understand that unless it's actually being delivered.
I get that. And actually, what was your number, Brian? 88.3?
88.7.
I'm going to go 89.9. I might even go 90. I'll round up to 90. Everybody knows me and Drucker, right? And I had this epiphany this week. So Drucker says the two basic functions of an enterprise are marketing know and understand the customer so well, your product or service fits them and sells itself. And innovation, create new products that create new value and satisfaction, right? So all of a sudden, in my view, those are two roles of product management, right? Marketing, know and understand the customer, and then partner with design and development to create innovative products that create new value. And he also talks about how these basic functions, they're not silos, they need to permeate the whole company. And I believe it's product management's role. It's imperative for us to be helping people permeate it. It's our job to help people understand it and to get people on board and to help bring those things together. And if we are not doing that, if we are not actively driving that collaboration, engaging them and pulling people upstream and helping facilitate that, we are not doing our job as product management. So that's why I'm as high as I am there. I could totally understand why Cory is where he is, because I've been there with those people too. And, I guess part of my job is to make it better, but I don't know if I can. So with that, we've got enough time to do, and we are quickly going to be a lightning round. So we're talking word. Well, I know for Joy, it's going to be a word or a phrase of how can product management help design and development understand their value? And Paul, I'm just going with in my vision and order, and you're first. How can product management help design and development understand their value?
Deliver.
I love
Deliver
it.
the value.
Brian.
Collaborate.
Deliver, collaborate. Joe.
Mute.
Mute. You're on mute.
It was a great speech.
Yeah, and that sounds like more than one word. So deliver, collaborate.
Bring them along, I guess.
Deliver, collaborate, bring them along, Calvin.
And collaborate and also provide data.
Deliver, collaborate, bring them along, and give them data. Cory.
Find what's important to them and help them do it.
Deliver, collaborate, bring them along, get them data, and find out what's important to them and help them succeed at that. Joy. I don't know if I can do any more after this one. Joy.
Educate.
Educate.
Which is all those things.
Yeah. Deliver, collaborate, bring them along, get them data, understand what drives them and help them do that, and educate them. Steve.
Be the business representative we were hired to be.
Ooh, I like that.
Mm.
And I definitely am not going to be able to deliver, collaborate, bring them along, data, find out what drives them and help them succeed at it, educate them, be the business driver for that. And I'm going to sort of sum some of it up is bring them upstream, right? Bring them into our process, help them be part of what we're doing. It's part going along, it's part collaborate. It's sort of a way to do that, but also support them downstream. This goes back to Steve's hand off versus handshake, and how do we do that? So guys, this was a great conversation. I know I say that every week, but I really enjoyed hearing people's perspectives on, how we can better as product management, get people to understand our value. How do we engage them? What we can do better. I mean, the fact that the majority of people on this call had greater than 50% of the blame for people to understand the value on product management. Some of us in the high 80s. It tells me that we as product management have a lot of work to do to truly help people understand the strategic role. The good news from what I'm seeing from these so-called thought leaders, there are a lot of people starting to talk about strategy and product management and the role product management can play. And I think that means that there's some, the sun is on the horizon and starting to come up, and a chance for us to really define this role of a strategic role of product management. And I'm excited about that. So guys, thank you so much. Paul, Brian, Joe, Calvin, Cory, Joy, and of course, my partner, Steve. What an amazing conversation this week. I can't wait for next week's. But we do this every week, right? On Monday, the question goes into the community. On Wednesday, we do our poll. And on Friday, we have these wonderful conversations. So thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next week in the community. Take care, guys.